I'm Angie Nichols. I'm on the deployment team for Enterprise Health. I help manage and deploy enterprise health systems. And I'm here today to talk to you about document management. The agenda for this session is displayed on the screen. Along, if you have a copy of this, it would contain active hyperlinks to take you to our shared documentation that's available on the docs.enterprisehealth.website. Document management is comprised of several custom configuration details that are displayed on the agenda. Project plan. Deployment tools used include a standard project plan that is specific to customer requirements and deliverables. The review session agenda outlines system configuration areas that are reviewed with the customer. System configuration for the document management falls in the deployment and configuration section of the project plan. Documentation management begins with the customer review session to demonstrate the workflow and discuss system configuration. The review session outlines the agenda for the meeting with the customer. Each component is outlined in the document to review what information needs to be collected, what decisions need to be made, identify gaps between the standard product and customer requirements, and assign resources and due dates to action items. I'll briefly go through some system configuration items to give you a high-level overview of how the electronic system stores and manages documents. What is document management? Document management in electronic health records means going paperless and having broader accessibility to information. That's the goal, right? Documentation management is a great way for practices to begin migrating to electronic health records from paper. Paper records can go online, which then enables anytime, anywhere web access to chart information. If paper documents are needed, document management enables you to print barcoded paper forms, which can be used to capture and document using paper. Then the barcoded paper forms can be placed in a scanner to be captured electronically as an image and then indexed into the electronic patient's chart. Even if you eliminate paper for the customer, they will still receive documents from outside facilities. And document management helps you incorporate the paper you receive into the electronic health records that you maintain. Some of the benefits of the electronic document management system are eliminating paper charts from the office or clinic, and it frees up valuable space. I was at a client and they said they could get rid of all of their filing cabinets, so they decided they might put a sofa there. Having scanned document images in the electronic record makes missing charts a thing of the past. Multiple users at any time can access an electronic chart at the same time. Browser web-based access means the clinician can review charts in the office or even while on call at home or when on vacation. Document management enables transition into an electronic health record, and productivity is increased because charting is accessible, visible, and not lost. You can scan and index on or off-site instead of mailing or couriering documents to your shared office or clinic within your company. And lastly, grouping similar type documents within the electronic chart helps provide easiness of accessibility, finding what's needed, and for auditing needs. Before one can scan and index in any paper documents into the system, document types must be set up in the system. Document types tell the system what to store the image as. What is the name or the title of the document? An indexer needs to know what to categorize the image as when they're indexing into the chart by signifying the document type. Also, when staff is working in the patient's chart, they need to have quick visibility of what documents exist for the record that they're working in, especially if looking for something in particular, and therefore a document is stored by the document type. Document types are stored as an abbreviated acronym for coding reasons, but they're visibly seen to the end user by the full description name. We support many different document storage types such as text, PNG, TIFF, PDF, CCR, Excel, scanned images, many more. The Document Types tab is found under the hood of the product in the control panel. This is the place where the document types are configured to be used system-wide by end users, and they're typically activated or inactivated by super users. Out of the box, we have over 350 document type selections predefined in the product. The most common type of uploading method for each document type is also configured out of the box for each. I'm now going to demo how to add a document type to the system. Before adding a document type to the system, I want to first check if the document type already exists for end users to use. There's an inactive or an active search, or there's a contained search here, and I'm going to upload later on a form for an influenza consent, but I want to first see if there is any type of document that's related that already exists already. So I'm searching for the word consent. In this instance, I do see a consent for injections, but I'm not sure if that's the one that I have a form to load for users to use or not. So I can click on the document type abbreviation and see the details of that doc type, but then come down here to see the form image that's already loaded for that doc type to, again, verify if that's the one that I need to use instead of a new form that I'm going to load. So I see that it's not the form that I want to load and be available in the forms library for my staff. So I need to cancel out and add a new doc type to the system for the consent for influenza injection. So I click the add document type. I can give it some type of abbreviation and then name it. So the description is what's going to be seen by the end users, and the document type is what we can do some programming and some other triggering for other things in the background. All of these details and fields here on this doc types editor screen, I would refer to our help bubble up at the top of our product. There's lots more guided information on what each field is for. But in generality, if you want to form and add it to the system, we'd want to make sure that it's available to be scanned and indexed back in. So I'll check mark that. And I want my users, my staff, to be able to print off a form version of this influenza consent. So I'll check mark that and then submit and save my work. Tracking a form, if you're printing a form from the system, such as the influenza consent that I just created in the system, when the document type is set to track, the system tracks that form and it knows what chart it was printed from, what list of forms were printed and marked to track but not uploaded or indexed back into the chart yet. When viewing the document types tab in Control, the existing document types will clearly display whether the form version of that document is flagged as tracked or not. Setting a document type form to be tracked is as simple as going to the existing document type in the editor and clicking Edit. Once in that document type editor, simply checkmark the Track Form box to make sure, and then make sure to save and submit your work. Then when you're going to the patient's chart, there is a Forms Printed sub-tab in the Admin Parent Chart tab. And you'll notice in this chart, there are currently no forms noted as tracked to be scanned back in for this patient. So the list shows empty. So either they've printed off these forms and already scanned and indexed them back in that were marked as tracked, or they've never had any forms printed for them that were marked as tracked. In this screenshot, this shows that the California Animal Bite Report form was printed for this patient. Then the Animal Bite Report doc type was set to be tracked, and this list signifies to any user in the chart, working in the chart, that this track form was printed on this specific day, but it still has not been scanned or indexed back in for this patient's chart yet. Forms with data can be overlaid on them, and the forms are housed in the Forms library, which can be accessed by clicking the Add Document hyperlink found throughout the product. Forms can be printed out from the Forms library with the hyperlink form next to it in the Forms library. The Forms library is a centralized repository to organize and store commonly used forms such as HIPAA forms, patient registration forms, consents, H&P forms, and many more. Forms are typically configured by MIE super users to overlay a barcode and other data elements that may need to populate onto the form in specific areas. I'm now going to demo how to access and print a form from the Forms library. Here, when I'm in a chart, I can go to the Add Document link found throughout the product to access our Forms library. And then I can select and find the consent to treat form that I know is in the system to be utilized. I can use a contain search. I can see what my most common document types that I've accessed in the system as my login, or I can see the whole forms library down here at the bottom. So my consent to treat, I can click on the form version and then send this to the printer. So this is an example of a form already loaded in as an image that can be printed out for a chart on demand. The paper forms are typically printed out to collect handwritten information or wet signature from the patient. When it's printed out, it has a barcode overlaid on it, and that tells the system when it's scanned and indexed back in, it will auto-index the date of service, the chart name, the document type, and the location, so it knows what chart to store this document image in. The form can also be overlaid with any discrete data that we collect in the chart. That includes demographics or even allergies or medications or other observations. I'm now going to show you how to program a form quickly to be available to your staff in the System Forms library, and how to program data onto it to be overlaid. So when you're working in the Forms library, right now you need to be in Internet Explorer. And to configure out a form in the system, you must first go onto the Control Panel and then to the Document Types tab. Find the document that you want to offer a printable form version on. So I'm going to find the consent for influenza that I had created earlier. And I want to add a form to it. So I'm going to click the Add button, or the Add hyperlink. You need to convert your form image to a PNG file type to be used in the Forms library. And you can click here on the Page button and browse out to find your PNG file. And then click Add Page. So that will put the form image in the background. And then you can continue using the toolbar at the top to program your variables to overlay on this form. So I usually open the details box and move it to where out of the way a little bit, but then you'll use your mouse and you'll click one time and it creates a box. And then you can use our library, our tree of different variables or different things you can pull onto a form. So the first thing we usually do is a form ID barcode, and then you can change the X and the Y axes if you want, and then click Update. And we typically follow after the form barcode at the top. We typically put the patient's full name, and then we usually put that at 35 and 100, update it, and then an MR number. But then you can go through and look at the form and see what other places that you can go ahead and overlay data to save your staff time or even a patient from handwriting it in. And once it's in there, you can drag and drop it and move it up so it's a little bit lined up better on your lines. So I'm just going to quickly put one more in. So once you have your data overlaid that you want to pull, then you can click the Save button and then X to get out. So then what I typically do is go into a test patient's chart, and I will render that form from our Forms library in the steps that we just did previously to make sure that it looks all right and the data is lined up and that I didn't miss anything or need to tweak anything. And that then shows the form that we just loaded with the barcode and some data overlaid onto it. So then our end users, our staff, would utilize this form and see that programmed for us and print it out. So creating a Word document, we can create Word templates too, just like we did forms. The Word templates are also housed in the Forms library, which can again be accessed by clicking the Add Document hyperlink throughout the product. And Word templates that can be utilized by staff are signified with the hyperlink of Word next to it in the Forms library. Microsoft Word is used for nicely formatted template needs. Such needs could be for letter correspondences or communications to outside physicians or providers, or any other need where a formatted note or a report may need to be generated. Once the Word template is typed into by the end user, they can click the Upload button and it stores in real time as a document into the patient's chart, which eliminates the need to print it out, scan it back in, and index it. Once the Word document is uploaded into the chart, it can be shared by printing, faxing, or secure emailing that document out if needed. So I'm going to demo how to use an existing Word template that already is configured in my system. So again, for Word, you'll need to be in IE, and in this chart, I want to type up a letter. So I click on the Word hyperlink, and you can refer to our help documentation for specifics on these fields, but it will populate me as the authored by, today's date, and I can click Add Document. And that will bring up the nice formatted Word template that a super user has installed into the system for staff to use. So the Word template can be programmed to pull in discrete data elements that are part of the chart, again, like demographics or even allergies or medications or other observations or data stored. And in this letter example, they've programmed that to pull the company's logo, today's date, the patient's date of birth and name, and who's authoring this letter, their name and their signature that's stored in their user chart. Using entry points, we call these entry points that are programmed, that helps the user who's typing into this letter or this Word template the ability to know where things need to be typed into and kind of skip over the rest and know that this is the place where they need to be typing. And then once they're done typing into the Word document, the Word template, they typically would go to add-ins and click the upload, and that will do a spell check for them also if need be, and then it uploads it in real time right into the patient's chart. And depending on your preference, you may refresh to be shown that letter in the patient's chart. And then once you've done that Word template as a document in the chart, you can print or fax or send it out through email. So now I'm going to show you how to program those Word templates in the back, like as a super user, to be used by staff. Again, we'll need to be in IE, and you can go to Control, and then you go into the Document Types tab. So let's say I want to configure a Word template for a reminder letter. We already have a Word template that we just showed you for a letter. Maybe I now need to make the reminder letter look nice with our logo or date and the patient's name and things like that. So I can find the doc type, or if it doesn't exist, add new like we did in earlier steps, and then go and get into the Word, that's Word file type from the Document Types tab, and then you're configuring a template that will be used by end users all the time. So when you go to add-ins, you have another, just like in forms when we were programming data to overlay, we have insert web variables here, and this gives you a pre-templated choices of some data, most common data. It's not every type of data that we have in the system, but this is the most used. If you did want to pull someone's signature image, you can come here to the image radio button and select that and select a choice. Or perhaps there's an observation that you want to pull, that's not listed here in our out-of-the-box just quick pick of choices, you can use the user-defined, and you can go ahead and type in the correct variable that we store that data as in the system. So for this instance, I'm just going to pull the document, today's data service. So it's under document, data service, click insert. Then maybe I want the patient's name. I can prefix it with name, but if I don't want to put a prefix that's there all the time, I can just insert that variable to pull the patient's full name. We have lots of different choices on how you want to pull their name. And then if I wanted to prefix date of birth with DOB so someone would know what that data is pulling there. And then go down here to the patients section and put date of birth. We can pull in the person's e-signature that's on file that's authoring this document, along with any other information that I need. Just going to go ahead and cancel, and then I'm going to click upload to upload that into the system. And then again, I go to a test patient, pull it up just to validate and check my work. Go to the forms library. Even though it's not a form, it's still accessible there. It's Word. I can go ahead and search for my reminder letter. Yep, so back here in the doc types editor, just like we did a form, we need to signify that we want it available to end users as a Word template. So I have to check mark it to activate it as Word. So we'll go to a test patient, document library, and I can search there or use contain search. And there's my reminder letter available in a Word template. Can select it, click add document, and then check the data that I had programmed in the Word template to make sure that it pulls and overlays. And I want to make sure that I'm actually using a chart that does have that data that I programmed it to pull and overlay on. Print, fax, and batching. Once a document is indexed or uploaded directly into the patient's chart, it can be shared by using the print, fax, batch, or secure email. And all the options to do those are found in the right corner of the document when you're working in the chart. So I'd like to show you where that is in real time in the system. So if I'm here in the patient's chart, I can find any document that's in this specific chart from the catch-all tab called Document Summary. So if I needed to print that letter, I can click on that document that's stored in that patient's chart, and I can click print or fax up here through those hyperlinks. But even if I click print and I change my mind, I can still come here and change the generation method of how I want to send this document out, either by print, fax, or secure email if I have that set up for our system. The web scanning and indexing, there are a lot of benefits to our web scan module. It's the most efficient way of converting your paper documents into the electronic format for the system. We support high-speed scanning. We have barcode detection and interpretation for fast indexing, which saves the indexer a lot of times. We have automated blank image removal, which means if you have a blank page, it can automatically detect that and delete that out of the batch for you without wasting someone's time marking it as deleted. We check duplicate documents in charts, and we also offer shortcut hotkey abilities to delete or link other pages to page 1 of documents. We can crop, rotate, things like that. There are requirements for WebScan. Your scanners need to have a standard Twain compatibility, and the high-speed scanning, it's recommended to use Internet Explorer 10 or 11 because WebScan requires ActiveX plugins. We have several types of scanners that can be used with the product depending on the amount and speed and type of documents that the customer needs to get into their electronic chart. This is an example of a high-speed scanner. It has a feeder at the top, which is what we most recommend. and we can support single-sided or duplex scanning. And you can put a bunch of different documents, papers up in the top. It doesn't have to be all for the same patient, because when you're indexing, you can do line by line, page by page, and find it a permanent home. We have some customers who their front desk staff just has a flatbed, so that'll just do one page, one side at a time, maybe for some just quick things that they need to get in. And then we also support card scanners where you can scan and index one side or both sides of perhaps an insurance card or a driver's license. So I'm going to demonstrate how to index some scanned paper documents. And we need to be in IE. And here in the web scan side menu tab, usually you have a scanner doing scanning, and then you might have some other people as indexers who are indexing and finding a permanent home for those images. So I've already had a scanner scan in some documents, and we're going to work this 5-page batch. And as an indexer, I would come in here and click open on the batch that I want to work. And the very first thing I always want to do is click process barcodes, because process barcodes will flip and look through all the pages in that scanned batch and look for any barcodes that the system had put on it if it was printed out from our system, and it will auto-index just like we talked earlier. If it has a barcode, it knows the date of service, it knows the doc type, it knows the chart it came from, and if you printed it off from a scheduler, an appointment view, it would know the location and things of that appointment. So this saves me time. I have 2 pages right here that were already auto-indexed for me, so I can just hit enter to go to the next line and start indexing ones that don't have barcodes and to find it a permanent home. So I can see here on the right-hand side, the image is dated July 12th. This is an injection record. Use my tab key. It's for the same chart, Jane Doe, and I can hit enter to go down and now index their insurance card. Hit enter. This is the back of their insurance card, so I don't want to put this in as a second insurance document. I want to link, so I can control enter and link this page to the page right above it. So this insurance card will go in as one document into their chart, but it consists of 2 pages. Once I've checked all my pages in the batch, I can click upload to chart, because I've signified to the system a date, a doc type, and a chart name. Really, the only requirements are the doc type and the chart, so it knows where to go and what to store it as. You could leave date blank, and it would probably put it in as 1900. But when you upload it to chart, you'll check here down in your status column to make sure all of your pages in your batch were successfully uploaded to that chart. And then you would click close on the batch. It would automatically mark it as complete because we indexed all the pages in that batch, and then click close to get out of WebScan. That would refresh my queue. My batch is now taken out and found in a different batch status, but then I can go back into, I think it was Jane Doe, and go just as a quick check, just to show you in the document summary, here is all the documents that were scanned in that I just indexed and told the system where to put it permanently, whose home does it need to live in. Okay, that's it.